I flew back from Iran to Istanbul and spent a few days in the big city, just seeing the normal tourist sites. I don't really have a lot to add in terms of narrative here because these are all very famous sites, and you can read a lot about them online, and you can also see tons of people's YouTube videos who have a lot more to say about Istanbul than I do. One of the most interesting things I saw in the city was probably the Archaeological Museum because it has a lot of really interesting pieces. My favorite, as you'll see in a few seconds here, is the Ishtar Gate, or pieces of the Ishtar Gate from Babylon. And just really anything about Babylon interests me, but being able to see pieces of that really famous gate was really interesting for me. There it is. After spending a couple days in Istanbul, my friend and I flew to Izmir, which is a beachy, sunny, nice area. We drove down to Selçuk, and nearby is a little tiny village called Yeniköy, and we're talking dirt roads, tiny but beautiful area. Also very close to the main draw in the area, which is Ephesus. It's a biblical era site, very, very popular with tourists, because it does, it's been, put back together fairly well in modern times to attract tourists there, and it's really beautiful. There's also a very old Christian church there, which we saw, just breathtaking views there in general, but there's the church. Very nice site. But one of the things that was most interesting about it for me is that they are actively excavating this site still. There are homesteads that are buried into the side of a hill that's nearby, and they're in the midst of excavating it now. And you can still see the mosaics on the floor and the paintings on the walls. They're very carefully uncovering these things, and they're just doing an excellent job. Once we saw that main attraction of the area, we drove south to see 3 new sites in one day that are a little bit less commonly visited by tourists. They were the sites of Priene, Miletus, and Didim. They all have pretty impressive ruins there, and just not a lot of crowds. So I did do a little bit of talking on the video with my, not expert commentary. So I'll hand it over to myself right now to explain a little bit about what we did there.
I like the stuff where you can see the carvings. Like somebody actually stood there and carved stuff in things. For example, this right here, you can see the individual Greek letters on here, and I wish that I had learned Greek before I came here, because I have the book at home and I got it like a month before we came, and I just didn't have time to learn. I can read what the letters sound like, but I just don't know what it says. So there's a column here that's really cool. It's fun to touch it. Nobody's here. Where to next? So there's even an Athena temple here. So yes, it's in Turkey, but like we're right on the Aegean coast. So if you go into the sea, Greece is right there. There's all these Greek islands right off the coast here. So we've come to the Athena temple, which has the quintessential columns that you can see behind me. Read what it is again. When is it from?
This is one 2nd century before Jesus Christ.
200 BC-ish. So we're talking 23, 2400 years ago. Just incredible. Just piles of broken columns everywhere. You really are not going to find something like this in Athens or Rome because it's just so quiet here. You can see there's thrones all around the ring. So cool. And behind me you have the stage itself. We are at a new site called Miletos, maybe? I think it might be Greek. Again, there was nobody here when we got here. It was 10 lira admission per person, so about a little bit more than $3 a person, 4 lira to park, so like a little bit more than $1 to park. And we're basically the only ones here once again. There's a little guest house, and then behind me you can see this beautiful city. Just nothing, nobody here.
Miletus was my absolute favorite stop on this trip because it is an old, huge, pretty well put together city that you have total freedom of movement in it. You can really go anywhere you want as long as it's, safe and a good idea. And there's no real crowds to compete with. There's no signs telling you what you can or can't do. And it's just beautiful. It's like the most freedom I've had in a site like this. And I hope that, visitors respect it so that it can stay that way. Because it's such a good feeling. I'm sure there are other places that are maybe even, better in this regard in the world, but I mean, for coming to Turkey and not expecting this, I was really impressed, and I had a great time here. The amphitheater is kind of the main attraction in the site, but really it spreads out for a long, long way. It was really hot, so we didn't even get to go to all of it. We just tried to see as much as we could in the time that we had. The Aegean Sea used to come all the way up here, and to Priene also. So there are port areas, like docking areas, which were really interesting to see because there's still water there. Obviously, it rains and the water stays, but being able to jump around these sort of half-sunken areas, it seemed like an adventure. Whether or not it really was, adventurous, it doesn't matter because it felt like it was. It was really neat. And after our time in Miletus, we drove south to our last stop, which was Didim, and it has the Apollo temple there. I have to admit, by this time we were pretty tired. It had been a long day, a lot of driving, a lot of walking.
There is a temple of Apollo here, and it costs 10 Turkish lira to get inside. There's like 4 people and then a little group of school kids that you can see, but that's it. There's like nobody else here. So this is a really neat site too.
And after a few days, we left the Selçuk area. Before we did, though, we drove to a mountain village called Şirince. This is where we had dinner on the top of the mountain in the village, and it's a very cute village. The only thing is that you shouldn't go if you're already tired, because there's a lot to see and a lot to buy and a lot to eat. But it's quite a journey up the mountain. So if you're not a confident driver, which I'm not, certainly, just be careful, because there aren't barricades the whole way up, so it can be a little bit daunting. And of course, being frazzled after the journey up, I left my phone in the car, so I didn't get any video of the village of Şirince itself. But you should Google it if you're interested, because it's really, really a cute area. I think people would really enjoy visiting. Once we did leave the Selçuk area, we moved over to Kuşadası, which is like the nearest beach town, and we had an okay hotel, I would say, but with very beautiful views, and the weather held out almost the whole time. For our last like big thing that we did, we went to a site called Pamukkale, which is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and it was a long drive. I think the map said that it would take us like 2 hours, 2.5 hours, but it took us an extra hour to get there. I don't know why. I think I'm just a bad driver. Obviously, we were starving when we got there, so we ate and made some new friends. A married couple, apparently, a duck and a cat. So this is the view of Pamukkale.
Now we are
it's
in
salt flats. I'll talk about
Pamukkale,
it.
which is a salt flat area, and it is full of water, pools, flowing all the way down the mountain. Ragip is in the pool, enjoying it now. So, altogether this is about a 2-hour drive from the largest town. So we would say that it's not really worth it to drive for 2 hours just for this. There is a ruined city at the top of the hill, but I mean, compared to the other ones, it isn't that impressive.
And I certainly don't want to end the video on that negative note. It's certainly a place that's worth seeing if you're willing to drive, and if you're willing to put up with the crowds. I'm not a crowd person. I'm not really a people person, period. So I preferred to stay to well, actually, in comparison to the other sites that we had been to, it was just a little bit underwhelming for me. But all in all, it was an amazing trip. I can't wait to go back or have the opportunity to go back to Turkey again and try to visit some other places, because it's a vast, amazing country. You get a lot for your money there. So if you are looking to have an amazing vacation and not spend a lot, definitely go to Turkey. So worth it. So worth it.